Hi, Kobe. I hope you had a
Hey.
wonderful week, and I wanted to check in with you and see what your goal was from our values matrix. Last time, we figured out what our values were and we mapped them onto the Eisenhower matrix, and we made a little next step for ourselves.
Mhm.
What was something we were going to work on, and in what category? What were you going to work on, Kobe, from last week?
Accountability, it's a beautiful thing. So I was going to take my quadrant two tasks and I was going to put them on my calendar. And so, in terms of progress with that, there are a few things that I did put on my calendar. When we talked, I think it was in the first episode about living fully during the summer. And then we also talked last week, I think, in prep for the episode about how when you're in the summer and you have all the time in the world, things get a little bit more fluid and maybe you don't feel as much urgency to get things done. Um, so that when you're during the school year or when you've got more going on, it's easier to kind of stick those things in because you've got that time pressure anyway. And like, let's get these things done. During the summer, you always have later to do it.
Right.
So there were a few things that I put on my calendar, but during the summer is a hard time for that for me because I'm trying to live fully and I am by nature a wanderer.
And a
I
walker.
am a walker. I love and need structure. And also during my off time when I'm living fully, I don't have a lot of structure. So while I put on my calendar that I was going to do certain things, it maybe didn't stick to the time frame I said I was going to do it in. I also tend to be a rabbit hole person where I will find something I love to learn, so I'll find something to do or to learn about, and before I know it, 3 hours have gone by. So that's why I love summers because I get to wander a little bit more than during the school year. But I would say I was about 50% successful. And
Awesome.
to be more
That's quite high,
successful,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
To be more successful, I think one of the things to look at is where was the resistance to doing that. Um, and so part of that resistance is how I naturally move through life during the summer. But what is the smallest thing that I can do to break down that resistance, if that makes sense? What can I do
Yes.
um,
To remove the friction.
to remove the friction? Maybe it's setting an alarm at the time that I've put on my calendar, so that when the alarm
Oh,
goes off,
nice.
oh, I need to do that. The other thing that came up too is that we had a few glitches in terms of real estate things that are going on, and then also like medical stuff um, in our family. So those things took on that quadrant one space. Like they were quadrant
Yes.
one activities, they were important, they were urgent, so we needed to get those done instead. Um, but I think an important aspect that we can talk about is that smallest step to reduce resistance. So, setting an alarm at the time that I put on my calendar to do the thing. Um, doing a quick review of the day before, it starts and say, what is it that I need to do today? And then where are my spaces that I can wander, you know, um, so that there's a little bit more
Yeah,
of a
maybe
structure.
you pencil in, maybe you go the opposite way too and be like, I want an hour and a half for wandering.
Hmm.
And I put that on my calendar. And
Yeah,
then if you know you have that protected time, you're more likely to stay on task.
true, true. Yeah, and
So maybe you maybe
is that wandering time like a quadrant two thing for me? Does it involve planning and learning about things that I'm going to implement later? If it does, that's absolutely a quadrant two. If it's,
yeah,
Netflix for 3 hours, then no, that's it's not quadrant two, right? Um,
right.
yeah.
But
So how
maybe
did
if
you?
you like diagram out the flex time
Mhm.
where you have the opportunity to wander, that will help you to do the things that are harder to do
Yeah,
because
be less
you want that
resistant.
time.
Yeah, be less resistant for those things because I've already taken care of, yeah, my need to wander and go down rabbit holes and all of that great stuff we get to do during the summer. So, how did things go with you? What was your goal this week?
Thanks. My goal was to delegate more to my teenagers.
Okay, how did that go?
which is very,
I know your
I mean,
teenagers
it's not
too.
really a small, it's not really a small step, but I think it's one that um, they are very much willing to do the things that they want to do,
Hmm.
and to take that independence where they want it. But
Yeah.
I'm also like, and we need to cook dinner. So that is a step towards independence, is being able to cook your own dinner.
Hmm.
Um, that is not as glittery and shiny for a teenager, and they do require some support. So I kind of actually take a page out of my teaching book for this one. And
Hmm.
so I actually told them, well, okay, at the beginning of the summer, because I'm playing the long game. At the beginning of the summer, I gave them a task of to find one recipe from the internet and put it on a shared Google Doc every day of the summer. And so
Okay.
now we have like 70 recipes that they've searched. And they
Okay.
search by our specific diet needs, and they need to be a complete meal and so on. And I let them put on some like desserts and stuff too. But they learned how to identify what was a good meal for our
Hmm.
whole family with different dietary needs. And at first they were like, oh, I can't find it. And they're like, how do we search for this? And so I walked them through that. So then you skip forward about a month. So they did that for a month. Then I said, guess what, kids? When I go back to work, you guys are going to be cooking dinner for the first week back at work, and you're not in school yet. So you'll have extra time. I said, okay, you now have 3 weeks to ask me everything you want to know, and you're going to choose two recipes each. Because they really only have to do two each, and then one meal is going to be like an easy meal.
Yeah.
Something like chicken nuggets in the oven. Something very
Yeah.
simple.
Yes.
Um, so it's real. I'm trying to take something that's very big, give them time to brainstorm, think through. I chunked it into small pieces for
Hmm.
them. And then I've only made them responsible for two meals.
Right.
Um, so now we're a week out. And so what have done for the last week, this is going to get to my main goal of delegation, is I dragged them into the kitchen while I was cooking every night that I could.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, you're going to sit there. Okay. And then they're each going to do something very basic, like open a can of spaghetti sauce or go get the beans or whatever it is. And, but I talked and I narrated through every single step of some very basic foods
Yeah.
that I know that they'll want to make, like chili, stuff like
Yeah.
that. I'm like, if you can learn how to make chili, great. So I like narrated through and I showed them all the steps. And
Hmm.
so next week is going to be the week we find out. But I think what I've really done is I've taken out some insurance policies on them just not doing it
Yeah.
so that it's edible.
Edible for everybody, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're hoping
No,
that it's edible for everybody.
and I see that you've scaffolded. You've started small, right? That least resistance step was go search some recipes,
Yep.
right? They had some trouble doing that, a little direction. They got the hang of that when they get comfortable with that. And that's how we build habits with everybody, right? With ourselves too. Small step, get comfortable, another small step. That's how we learn. That's how we build habits. So I hear you've done that with them, and now we've got the test next week.
Will I be hungry or will I be satisfied?
Okay, knowing your teenagers, I think you will be satisfied. I think they will do a good job. Maybe not perfect,
Yeah.
but I think they will.
Yeah. And I think that every step forward, they feel more competent
Yeah,
and have a bit more self assurance
yeah,
and self esteem about what they can do. So I'm hoping it's a win win for everybody,
yeah.
even if it's not their favorite task.
No. But it does, it breeds a sense of accomplishment, and, everybody is helping out, right? And when Taylor took over, when my teenager took over the, dinner making responsibilities, because I have the farthest commute and all of the things, it was magical.
Uh huh.
It really helps, and it helped her to feel confident and good about herself that she was contributing, even though it wasn't her favorite thing to do.
Right.
So,
And it probably helped you too because you felt more valued because you're out like earning money and taking care of the family and still there for anything that they really need.
hmm
Even if in a small way, I feel like that helps you to feel valued when somebody can make a hot meal for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or any meal for that matter. I don't care if it's hot, as long as I don't have to make it.
A sandwich. I'll take a sandwich.
Yes, I will take a really great BLT. Thank you very much. Grilled cheese and tomato soup, totally fine. I'm with
Yep.
that as well.
All right.
Doesn't
Well,
have to
thanks
be
for
fancy.
that update, Kobe.
Yeah,
I,
thank you.
I love hearing your progress.
Same with you. So now that we have checked in about our micro movement that we committed to doing about our at our last episode, we were prioritizing our tasks based on our values. Um, we're going to talk today about what happens when there are things that you can't change. You're trying to live your values and you're um, doing your best, but there is just something, this is reality. There are things that get in the way. But first, I have a question for you, Heidi. A little warm up question. We are ending our summer and starting back to work/school in less than a week. How are you feeling? Are you experiencing the Sunday scaries yet? The end of summer scaries yet?
Well, honestly, I've been working this entire summer to not feel that.
Mm,
I've been really mindful of that because I felt that bit of like, how am I gonna do it all? It's hard
yeah.
enough to do everything for your family, with cooking and shopping and fixing plumbing and ripping out a bathroom or two.
Or
Um,
two,
it's
trying to sell your
hard.
house or,
Exactly. All of those things,
Mhm.
it's hard enough when you're not actually working a very rigid job.
Yeah.
Um, we are still working, and I have been working all summer. I've been taking night school classes.
hmm
I have been running the podcast with you. Like, so I've been still doing stuff. But I guess it's my goal this year, and it has been to actually dissect all of my pain points and
Mm,
try and find creative solutions. So I'm going to give you one
I love
example.
that.
My one example is I have to drive my kids somewhere they don't want to go.
hmm
Not excited about it. The vibe in the car is neutral at best. It's like the flat face of the emoji. It's like, ugh,
Yeah.
nobody's excited about it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to drop them off and then I'm going to go to an exercise class.
Great.
So this way, I don't have to be driving back and forth
hmm
because the appointment's not long enough
Yeah.
to do anything
Yeah.
except maybe work out. So I've signed myself up for a class and I was like, okay, this is a win-win because now I can get some of the taking care of me and I'm paying for it. So guess what's actually going to happen?
hmm
I'm going to go
Yeah.
because I'm paying for it and it's not that cheap either.
Yeah.
So I was like, I will. I've just done a bundle of bundle group, and I'm
Mhm.
just going to do it, and that's the time I'm going to do it. I'm going to sign up for the time, and then
It's gonna happen.
it's going to happen. So I think I tried to look at every single pain point I have, like me not taking care of myself, like
hmm
that just goes away.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
like I have no needs for a school year.
We talked about that living fully during the summer, right? Fully living, and then that transition from fully living and all of the things that we're doing during the summer to take care of ourselves or our homes or our kids and the flexibility to do that, and then transitioning into a school year where you have to wear hard pants and shoes. Like that's not my favorite. Hard pants and shoes after, being able to take long walks and do whatever. So that transition, making that transition can be tricky. And as for parents as well, when I was a stay-at-home mom for 11 years, it was the opposite. I'm like, I get my house back. Yay! I get my time freedom back. And now as a working mom, I mean, granted, mine is older, but when she was younger, what do we do with the kids during the summer and all of that? So, um, yeah, I just wanted to check in with how you were feeling about the end of summer scaries and the fully living and that transition. And it sounds like you're really looking at creative solutions to those pain points as you transition or with anything that you're doing, which I think is great. And I think we can all do some of that in our.
And the last part of this is not just thinking about the negatives, but
Hmm.
really focusing on the positives.
Yeah,
So I'm trying to mitigate the negatives while thinking about back to school, and I get to see my former students.
I know. Isn't that fun?
And I'm gonna really love that. And
Yeah.
so I've been trying to think about that,
Hmm.
and it actually made me get like excited
Yeah.
for school because I was like, oh, I'm gonna see how big they got. They're gonna come
Hmm.
in, and we have like some jokes from class, so I'm gonna joke around with them.
Isn't it
Um,
crazy though, over one summer, how they sprout? Like they
yes,
come, who are you? You're so
yes.
big.
So we'll see. I hope to see a couple of them come back to see me. So I've been thinking about that. And then
Yeah.
been thinking about who my new students are going to be
Mhm.
too. Like, and excited to get to meet them. So I've been trying to do a two-prong approach. It's
I love
mitigate
it.
the things that are difficult and think about the things that are great and that are very unique to my job.
And you know what? That really dovetails nicely with what we're talking about today. This is a spontaneous, Heidi didn't know I was going to ask her this question, spontaneous conversation, but really dovetails nicely with what we're talking about today, which is the inner work. What happens when you cannot change the thing that you have to do? You're trying to live your values, and there are things that are getting in the way of that. The inner work that has to happen. We talked a little bit the last time about inner boundaries and outer boundaries, like external boundaries. And so today we're going to talk about some of the same things, some inner work and some just a tiny bit of external factor to look at when we're deciding like what to do when we can't change things. So our first factor that we want to look at is taking a critical look at your system. So Heidi, do you want to talk about a little bit about that?
Yeah. First of all, we want to validate everybody. We know your plates are too full. We know that you do have systems in place. Um, but things change. So if you had a system that was working, kudos to you. Many people don't because it's hard.
Seriously.
But if you had one and then you got something else dumped on your plate, now your systems need to adapt. And you might need to kind of iterate or go to the next level to figure out how to fit everything in, how to be effective with your time, and then maybe is there anything you can exit off of your plate?
Hmm.
Or I also want to bring up too that sometimes we can't avoid. Like we are voluntold. We, I mean, as much as like I have a honey-do list for my husband, he has lists for me too. So
Hmm.
we have lists for each other, and it's just they have to get done. And it's not like we're trying to dump something on somebody else's plate. It's just we're trying to manage as a team. And
Yeah.
then if there's an example at school, it's like, well, we all are wanting to do this project together, but it requires extra supplies that none of us have. So it
Hmm.
doesn't make sense for all of us to go buy our individual supplies when one person could do that, and then that person maybe gets a free pass the next time.
Yeah.
Um, or or maybe it's you want to spearhead something and you want to take the leadership on that, and it does mean taking extra time. It does mean making maybe copies for others or making slides for others. Um, but then the benefit is that it's good for kids. Like you've come up with something that's good. Um, and when we're thinking about stuff that's dumped on our plates, I want us to try and get our mind out of that dumping. Like I want
Mm.
you to think of this as not as a deficit model. Like, I don't have enough time. It's never going to get done. But instead, go, okay, what do I have time for right now?
Hmm.
And it's really hard to train our brains out of that negativity because we have a natural negativity bias.
That's being human.
Yeah,
Right?
you want to add on anything to this point, because I know that our brains are naturally, they go to the negative. So, like, I'm thinking for my year this year, I'm going to put some sort of a visual aid in my on
Hmm.
my desk area that's going to help me to look at it as less of the deficit model and more of I have enough.
I think it's a couple of things I want to say with that. There's an emotional overlay that happens when we look at it from the deficit model and from a negativity bias. And as humans, we are wired to be negative. That's a survival instinct. That's fine. But it doesn't serve us well emotionally when we're overwhelmed, when we've got a lot going on. And I want to go back to the taking a critical look at your organizational systems and what systems you have in place, because I don't want it to be perceived that we are saying, if you just had better systems, your job would be easy. No,
No.
your job is overwhelming. I think a lot of us in education, outside of education, as parents, as people, have a lot that are on our plates, and we are not saying that if your organization system is better, you just need to improve your organization system and everything's going to be fine. No,
Right.
but it is a factor to look at, like a first line factor to look at to see if you can make some improvements. Um, when it comes to that negativity bias, it kind of brings us to one of the things that we'll talk about is the cognitive behavioral triangle. And the idea behind that, at the top we have our thoughts, at the side we have our feelings, and on this side we have our behavior, our actions, whatever. So our thoughts will sort of drive our feelings. Our thoughts, feelings, perceptions, beliefs about ourselves up there at the top of the triangle are going to drive our feelings. And if you think about a negative thought and how that makes you feel versus a neutral thought or a slightly positive thought, and how that can feel better, more empowering. And it doesn't mean that you're lying to yourself. There needs to be a grain, a kernel of truth in the thought that you're thinking. It's not everything is awesome.
Right.
It's this is really hard, and there are things that I can control in this. That helps you feel a little less overwhelmed, a little less anxious, a little more empowered. And then from that feeling, you can take a different action. When you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed and tired and exhausted, the action that you are likely to take might be something like snapping at your spouse or your kids, or, doom scrolling for 3 hours instead of going for a walk. Or it's not likely to be an action that you're going to feel good about or is productive for you. So if we can go up to the top of that triangle and catch a thought, catch a feeling, catch a thought, a belief, a perception, and see if we can shift that, we can shift the feeling. Again, we're not saying your feelings aren't valid, right? Your
Right.
feelings, often the feelings that we're having about overwhelming situations are absolutely valid. I come back to how much do you want to suffer? Right? And so if we can catch that thought, decrease our suffering, put ourselves in a better place to make a plan of action, even that's that tiniest micro move that we talked about making at the end of our last episode and checked in about this time, is that what small thing can I do to be better in this situation? Um, so I think I got off topic. Where are we?
That our systems matter, and
Yeah.
we might need to revisit them. We might
Hmm.
need to adapt them. We might need to throw some things out and start fresh. But just continuing on with the same systems may not serve you. And then
And
our
sometimes we get stuck in the thoughts around that, like, this is how I've always done it. They should do something differently so I can keep doing my system the way it is. What's in our circle of control? That system is absolutely in our circle of control. Our thoughts and feelings and behavior are in our circle of control. So while it would be great, and other people probably should do things, maybe they will, maybe they won't. We don't have any control over that, but we
right.
do have
So
control
our
over.
two things are our systems and
Mhm.
basically our mindset,
Yes.
and how we are addressing our thoughts and perceptions, and how we're choosing, because that is our choice. That is what we have control over. So our first one is take a critical look at everything, see what's working, see what's not, and see what you can adapt and change, whether
Hmm.
it's internally or externally.
What is it you have control over?
And then what happens to us inside when we feel like we don't have the resources
Mm-hmm.
to do the job, when we feel forced.
Mm-hmm.
How should we regulate our nervous system, Kobe?
So, you have, when we're talking about regulating your nervous system, you've got physical strategies that you can do, and you've got cognitive strategies that you can do. Um, and physical can be like relaxation strategies. It can also be movement that decreases tension, if that makes sense. So the cognitive strategies we've talked about a little bit, catching that thought that is causing the suffering, shifting it at least to a neutral thought or some sort of an empowering thought that, yes, this is really difficult, acknowledge that difficulty, and then an affirmation of some sort
I like
that
that.
you believe that you can get through it. Um, the physical strategies, things like tensing and releasing your body, like the progressive muscle relaxation where you tense everything, or you tense it like one body part at a time. But the idea is that you are creating much more tension than usual, and then you are completely releasing it. And so that is one way to sort of regulate the physical symptoms of dysregulation. 4-7-8 breathing or box breathing, where you breathe in for 4. 4-7-8 is breathing in for 4, holding it for 7, and then slowly letting it out for 8. When you're really dysregulated, that can be really hard to do. Like when I'm dysregulated, holding it for 7, like by the end of it, I'm like, oh, and it's hard to let it go. So even if it's 4, 5, 6, the idea is that you start with one number and you increase the second number and then you increase the third number. So as long as they each get longer, you're good. Box breathing is breathing in, holding, breathing out, holding, breathing in. And the idea is that you are focused on the breathing instead of the upsetting thing. And your focus is, when your focus turns to the breathing, you are focusing on the sensation in your body, where you feel it, decreasing that sensation. You're focused on something that automatically turns on a relaxation response in your brain, so, or in your body. When you're breathing in, holding, and breathing out, your body relaxes naturally. So those are a couple of ways that you can deal with dysregulation in the moment. You might just need to take a 2-minute breather break. And it's okay to say, I need to step away for a minute. I mean, especially with kids, if you're working with kids, it's okay to model for them. You know what? I'm a bit frustrated and I need to take a step away. Whether you're working with kids, you have kids, spouses, it works with them too. I'm a little bit frustrated and I need to take a step away. And you take a step away and you take a deep breath. And maybe you need to take more than a step away, and that's okay too. And if you struggle with the regulation part, give yourself grace. Practice, practice, practice. That's how we get better at anything. Some of us need to run. Like sometimes when you have that extreme tension in your body, you need to go for a brisk walk. You need to go for a run. You need to do push-ups. You need to do sit-ups.
Like literally
Um,
get it out of your
they're
body.
like chair push-up, anything to decrease that physical tension in your body and get that out. I know when I'm dysregulated, I've been dysregulated a little bit these days with some things going on, with our house situation, and I walk. I go for a brisk, and that movement, my brain starts, and it starts processing, and it starts getting things put in the right order and in the right place. So those are some ways that we can regulate our nervous systems. If we can't walk, if we can't go anywhere, it's that cognitive and the breathing, those cognitive strategies and the breathing strategies. And let me give a disclaimer. It's easy to say all of these things. It's not easy to do all of these things. Grace, I think, is really big around here at the Human Skills Lab. That's something I feel really strongly about. If you are trying, you are doing good enough.
Yeah.
And it just takes practice. And it might be a struggle, and that's okay. You know?
So those are really great ideas on how to regulate. And I want to also just underscore that first you have to realize that you are a little bit dysregulated,
There you go.
because sometimes other people will tell you that you're upset And you're like, no,
You're
no,
like, no, I'm
I'm
not.
fine. I'm fine. Nobody's upset around here. You know, there's like
That
steam
steam
coming
is
out.
coming out of your ears, right?
So, first, I think is identifying, but I really want you to drive home the purpose of it. So,
Hmm.
why should we regulate? Now that we know, here's some ways to regulate, we do
Hmm.
need to realize that we're upset. I like one good test for me is can I step away and have a sip of water?
Mm.
Because I feel like having that sensation allows me to tune into mindfulness, but
Hmm.
also you have to be relaxed enough to be able to drink it.
Yeah,
So that's like one little trick that I have for myself. I also look at
I
my
love that.
hands. I look at my hands and I go, okay, are they balled up? If they are, can I let them go?
Yeah.
If I can't let them go, I'm dysregulated. Now,
I
these are very minor things because I'm
Mhm.
an adult and I have a lot of skills. With children, you'll see this so clearly. It's like they have it, tattooed on their forehead. Like, I'm angry,
Yeah.
I'm sad. They will tell you with their full body display.
And
But
their voice,
and
right?
their voice too. And for us adults, it might be even harder to see because we have some coping mechanisms and some masking skills so
No
that
matter
we
who I'm
can
talking,
participate in adult life.
yeah, no matter who I'm talking to about feelings and recognizing how we're feeling, it always starts in the body.
Yeah.
We're always feeling it. What do we feel? Like if we even just stop and think about how does my body feel? Oh, I feel a little nauseous, or my heart is racing a little bit, or my shoulders are up around my ears. My jaw is clenching. Like when you pay attention, you stop and pay attention, you will start to, oh, that doesn't feel relaxed. That doesn't feel right. And it doesn't mean that we always have to be relaxed. It just means that we need to be aware of what's going on in our bodies, to be aware of what's going on with our emotions. You know, are we tense, tight, um, clenched? Are we snapping at people? Are we yelling at people? Are we crying? Are we withdrawn? Are we feeling like, do we have a heavy feeling in our body? You know, do we have a light, joyful feeling? So our body is always a great place to start to figure out, to know that we're dysregulated and to know that it's time to do something, in order to be functional. And that will bring me to the why we want to regulate. We want to regulate because staying dysregulated, number one, affects our relationships, right? With the thoughts, feelings, behavior triangle.
100%.
If that whole spiral is going and we're snapping at people, it's difficult to get along. The other thing is it increases cortisol, and increased cortisol over an extended period of time has poor health outcomes, right? Both mental health and physical health. It can, result in anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, cognitive function is harder when you're not sleeping well. So all of those things are why we want to regulate in the first place. And then we know we need to regulate because we're feeling it in our body and we're seeing it in our behavior, or somebody else is seeing it in our behavior. Um, and then how we regulate is that we are doing some sort of controlled breathing or progressive muscle relaxation or tension reduction movement, or we're tackling the cognitive part of the dysregulation, catching the thought that might be causing or driving the dysregulation, and seeing if we can shift it, especially if it's a they should thought, because that's outside of our control. If it's a they should or a blaming, that's not anything we can control, and we can continue to spin on that if we want to do that. I do that sometimes too. I mean, I'm human. But if we don't want to, if we want to decrease that feeling of suffering or that intensity of that feeling, then we can choose a different thought, um,
I want
as
to
difficult as that might be sometimes.
add on a little bit to our purpose as well.
Hmm.
And I want to underscore what you said about our social um, relationships. Like those can lead to longevity and happiness in the
Hmm.
long run, and we need to nurture and support those and also create those good feelings for them too.
Yes.
So it is a mutually supportive thing. If you support that, then they in turn will support you more, and then you can feel more relieved.
Yeah.
Another big reason why we need to do this is because when we are triggered, we are not using our full brain.
Yeah.
We do not have access to all our problem solving skills. We don't have access to our higher level thinking skills. So we can't solve our own problems as well.
Yeah.
It's
So,
like a double-edged sword. It's like, oh, this makes you angry. Now you need to solve a problem. Oh, wait, you can't until
right.
you're not angry. So you have to regulate yourself first and then go into problem solving after.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a quick hand model of the brain. So this is your brain. This is your amygdala, which is the emotion command center. It's reactive. It doesn't think. There is no rational thought in your amygdala. It works with the hippocampus and memories, sort of a larger thing to react to keep you safe. That's the whole point. This is your prefrontal cortex right there, and that's where all the rational thinking happens and all the good decisions happen. And when you start to become dysregulated, these two don't connect or talk to each other. They start to lose that connection. When your lid is on, Dr. Dan Siegel, this is his work, the flipped lid model. When your lid is on, these two are communicating along with the hippocampus. All three of them are communicating, and you're able to make good decisions. When you become dysregulated, these two lose this communication, and you flipped your lid, and you're not thinking straight, and you're not making those good, wise decisions. So the strategies that we talked about, the cognitive and physical and relaxation strategies, are to get your lid back on so you can problem solve. To your point, we can't problem solve when our lid is flipped. We can't problem solve because we're not thinking straight. And so when we get our lid back on, that's when we can problem solve and think about what to do that's going to be productive for us, that's going to feel good for us. And let's talk about venting for a minute, because
That's a good point.
there is merit when we talk about social relationships
Hmm.
and venting. There is support and merit in that. And when you look at who you surround yourself with, when you have all of these things on your plate and you're trying to change those cognitions, no shame, no blame, but look at who you're hanging out with to see, is this helping me to feel better, more positive, solve this problem? Or am I stuck in a venting loop?
Ah,
Is
yeah,
this
it's like the
productive?
pattern,
Yeah,
right?
is this productive venting for me, or is this something that's keeping me stuck in a loop? And then what do we do if we are stuck in a loop with a person or a group of people? Nothing wrong with that if that's where they are. You get to decide where you want to be. They get to decide where they want to be. Um, and sometimes it means thinking about what's going to serve me best in terms of who I spend the most of my time with. Doesn't mean we can't spend time with them. It just means we need to think about how that affects us. And are we able to mitigate those effects, or do we need to decrease the amount of time we're in that situation? That's a hard one.
That's very hard
Yeah.
because you can just love those people too,
Yes.
like 100% love. And also, you're like, I'm so overwhelmed that it's hard to take in the extra.
Yeah, I'm drowning.
I'm drowning.
I don't need a brick, right?
Right.
I don't need to carry a brick around. And it's not I we can love people and still need to preserve ourselves. That's okay, you
Yeah,
know. But it is a hard one. It's a really hard one.
it's a really hard one.
Um,
All right, so far we have take a critical look at your systems and decide what can be delegated, prevented, or avoided if we have that choice.
yes, if we have
And
that.
then for whatever we don't have choice to avoid, we want to decide how we feel about it, and we want to control our own weather. We want to do what's in our circle of control, and we want to make sure that we are being intentional with how we're going about our choices that we do have control over. The second one is, why should we regulate our nervous system? Because it's important for our social interactions, because it's important for us and our ability to think and do our jobs and make good choices in front of our own children and be there for grandma who might need help. Like, there's all of those external factors, it's important for us to stay regulated. All right,
And our
now this
physical
brings
and
us
mental health. Also our physical and
exactly.
mental health. I think that's a really important point, that if we live in that dysregulation too often, that our mental and physical health suffers.
And then the third one is, how do we do that inner work when maybe our values are not aligning with our external pressures? What can we do? And I know you've given us a lot of great strategies so far about taking deep breaths, relaxing different parts of our bodies and tensing certain parts, making sure that we get calmed down. So once we're in that calm down state, now what?
Yeah. So one of the things that I really wanted to talk about today was the idea of radical acceptance. And that kind of goes along with the cognitive strategies that we're talking about. When there is no, you really can't delegate. You can't avoid. You can't, I mean, you could, I suppose, decrease expectations like we talked about last time. But when we're talking about radical acceptance, it's not approval of the situation. It's not saying this is okay, but it's completely and totally accepting with our mind, our body, and our spirit that this is how it is. It is what it is, right? So we can't currently change the present situation, even though we don't like them. We prevent ourselves from becoming stuck in unhappiness when we're able to do that. So in order to do that, first we have to recognize that we're doing that. We have to recognize that we are fighting reality, right? Sometimes that's real clear. Sometimes we are stuck in the shoulds still, and it's hard for us to, you know, really accept that this is as it is. Byron Katie's work is really good for that, loving what is. But we have to accept that it is what it is instead of get stuck in it shouldn't be this way. It is that way. So,
Oh, I love that. And maybe
um,
that's my visual that I'll have up for myself.
yeah.
I think that's a really great, wow, loving what is.
hmm
It's just a
Making,
reminder.
yeah, it's making
Just a
peace with it.
reminder.
Yeah, it's really making peace with it, and that can be really hard. I grace all over this one because it's hard. But reminding yourself that the unpleasant reality is just as it is and can't be changed. So you observe that you're fighting reality. You remind yourself that it can't be changed. This is how it is. Practicing accepting with your whole self, your mind, your body, and your spirit that this is what is. Using accepting self-talk. This is difficult, but it is what it is, right? I can handle this. Relaxation techniques, mindfulness or imagery. You want to think about and list all the behaviors you would engage in if you were fully accepting this. Like, how would it look and feel and sound if I were fully accepting this situation? Then you want to do them. You're kind of acting as if you are accepting this difficult situation. And then imagine in your mind's eye actually believing that. Like you're trying to give yourself practice actually doing, saying, feeling, believing the acceptance of this that you don't want in your life. Um, I think, again, it's that emotional overlay. How much do you want to suffer? The radical acceptance decreases that emotional overlay. It peels a layer off, and it can be difficult to do, but it can be transformational in terms of decreasing the dysregulation and suffering and stress. Um,
Right.
and it can allow you to move into an action mode. Like, I can't do this now.
Hmm.
Radically accepting it. I'm going to get this over with. It may not be Pinterest worthy. It may not be my best. It may not, right? We've decreased our expectations.
Right.
It'll be done.
Right.
And then I'm going to move on. And I'm going to unhook from that emotional feeling and leave that there and move on. Um, so when you're doing this, definitely allow your feelings, sadness, grief, upset to arise. Don't like unpack your suitcase and live there. Process, move through. You know,
Yeah.
you have to feel your feelings, but you don't have to stay there,
Yeah, exactly.
you know.
Um, so I want to recap for everybody. We want to take a critical look at our systems.
hmm
We want to decide what we can let go of, what we can't. what we can change, what we can't, and take a look at it emotionally and externally,
Hmm.
both. Then we need to regulate ourselves. And we know from multiple levels why that is so important to ourselves and everybody else around us.
Mm.
Then we need to look inside and think, okay, what do I have the bandwidth for today? Which conversations am I going to join today? Which ones am I not going to join today? So we need to have that internal in temperature taken, so we know where we're sitting that day or that moment and
Hmm.
know what we can handle. And then we're going to ebb and flow into those social interactions as we can. And
Based
then
on what serves us and what will help us
what
to,
doesn't.
yeah.
Exactly. And then finally is radical acceptance.
Hmm.
That's like, that's the end goal. And it doesn't mean forever. I think one of the sticking points for a lot of people on that is, well, if I don't do something, then nothing is going to change. Well, if you accept it in this one instance and you can stay regulated and you can stay on your game, you're going to have a better chance of changing it in the future if you can let go of those feelings that are triggering you.
Yeah.
And I want to come back just to one thing you said earlier, which was, how much do I want to suffer?
Hmm.
If you don't want to suffer a lot, get to that acceptance as fast as you can.
And if you're struggling with radical acceptance, make a pros and cons list. What are
Mm.
the pros and cons of staying in this dysregulated feeling where you are not accepting the situation as it is?
Oh, I love
And
that.
yeah, and then, make a pros and cons list for radical acceptance. And it's your choice, and lots of grace and no judgment from us. Like, humaning can be really hard, especially with those super difficult situations, right? That cause all that stress and those hurt feelings and the taking it personally. We're human. And give yourself a ton of grace if you're struggling with that. But you get to decide. You get to decide how much you're invested in this struggle. It's your decision. And it's
So
not an easy one. It's not an easy one.
no, and it will look different from day to day and from moment to moment. And the best thing we can do is just try our best and know that that's good enough.
Yes.
That is good enough. And we do not need to be on the perfection path.
Nope.
And we have not failed if we have a little hiccup here and there.
Yeah.
So I want us to set like a little mini goal,
Yes.
a mini move, a mini step forward for next week. What are we going to work on?
Hmm.
Give it some practice, experiment with. What little tiny experiment can you run
Yeah.
um, that you think will move the needle for you or bring you enjoyment?
Yeah. And I want to back up and say one of the reasons why we talk about mini moves and micro, whatever we want to call them, mini moves, micro moves, the smallest step that you can take to move the needle, because when you're overwhelmed, it's really hard. I mean, you can think about all the grand plans that you have, but actually getting those to happen, sometimes there's some resistance. Sometimes it feels hard. So we're shrinking it down to the tiniest thing that you can do to make it not feel so resistant and so hard. I think an example from Atomic Habits is when you want to develop an exercise, by James Clear, I believe. When you want to develop an exercise habit, the smallest thing you do is you put your exercise clothes on or your exercise shoes on. And if you've done that, okay, that's the tiniest step, and you build on it. So we're looking for tiny steps to build on. And for this is going to be a funny one, not a real one for me. Radical acceptance of the shoes I have to wear on Monday instead of being barefoot. Okay, this is the hardest part about going back to work after the summer off, is real shoes and hard pants instead of flip-flops and whatever else I decide to wear. Um, but also, I think in my real life, radical acceptance, trying to do a real estate transaction right now, and it's rocky. And I think just radical acceptance at every step of the way that this is the way it is, and that if we have to walk away, that's going to be okay. So that's kind of the tiny step I'm going to take, is just staying in that that space where I can still take a critical look at things and radically accept them, attempt to radically accept them.
So you want to make a tiny move to be more accepting and have a mindset that is more flexible.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, mine is going to be a visual aid or two.
I love
That
it.
is it. I'm going to put a couple of visual aids at my desk, on my computer screen, maybe at home. And I want those to just be a reminder of that I am good enough. My work is good enough. It's okay. I I know after being in education for over 20 years, like my good enough is pretty good. It's
Yeah.
pretty good. So like, if I don't need to stress out over technology glitches or a
Yeah.
missed attendance every once in a while, um, I will try not to do that. Don't worry, front office.
I know. If you're listening, front office,
But still, it doesn't mean I'm a bad human.
no.
So I want
Grace,
to
right?
detach
Yeah.
like some of those errors from my goodness.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those are kind of some of my next steps. Um,
As you were talking, if I can
yeah.
interject, I
Yeah.
don't mean to interrupt. Um, what occurred to me is, as a small step that I could do, is honestly just breathe, because there's been, some dysregulation throughout this process, in the past couple of weeks for me, and just taking a minute, 30 seconds to just do that 4-7-8 breathing that automatically turns on that relaxation response in your body. That's what I commit to do. Just breathe.
Just breathe.
Yeah.
Okay. And mine are a few visual aids and separating my inside from what's externally
Your
happening.
self-worth from the external things going
Yes.
on. Love it.
Those are my two things.
All right.
And I know those seem like big things,
I
but
know, right?
But I think if I do them in a way that is accepting of my mistakes,
Hmm.
then I've won.
Okay, they seem like big things if you think, I'm going to do this all of the time. They're small
Right.
things if you think, I'm going to attempt to do this and give myself grace if I fall down. If I do it once,
Exactly.
great, I've succeeded. If I continue to do it, even better. But giving yourself grace, I think, for that effort versus the, like, it seems like a big step to do it all of the time, and it is. So the small step is, I'm going to do it once. In one situation, I'm going to do this thing that I committed to doing. And then if I can do it again, great.
And if I mess up, I'm going to turn the page and start over. Turn the page.
Keep turning it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us today. We hope that you join us in identifying one micro move that you can do to move the needle when you have an overwhelming situation that you can't do anything about. We hope that you take advantage of some of the strategies and ideas that we talked about today, and we will see you next time.
And I just want to thank you so much for joining us and know that making mistakes is okay and that we're all trying our best. And that if you're thinking that you need to be perfect, you're not alone. Many of us think that.
But
And
you don't have to.
we're here to hold your hand through it and make sure you know that you are good enough all by yourself. We want to thank you so much for listening to this. And also, we encourage you to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed it. Thanks very much.